Hello and welcome to the Ministry of Miniatures, and today I've got a very special video. I am looking at blast markers and ranging in markers for mortars for bolt action. So here we are, there's three different types of markers on the table. I'm going to be looking at homemade, I'm going to be looking at some from Warlord, and I'm also going to look at some that have been sent from an Etsy store. So if you're interested in blast markers, pin markers and ranging in markers, this is the video for you. Okay, so here we go. So quite often when we're playing our videos and doing battle reports, we get asked about our blast markers. So I do have a variety I use in the videos. So these are my own homemade ones. So as you can see, there's a coin on the bottom of this one, just gives it a bit of added weight. These are fairly simple to make, but what I'm going to look at is how I make these, looking at the resin ones from Warlord and also these MDF ones, looking at which is the cheapest, which is the easiest, and which looks the best. So with my own homemade one, these are pretty straightforward to make. It just takes time and effort. So as you can see here, we've got bases, so you can use MDF bases, coins, or plastic bases. And all I normally do is clip off a piece of base, sprue, glue it to the base with hot glue gun, and you can either just have one going up, or you can put strands coming off so it looks more like an explosion. As you can see, there are a variety of different ways of doing that. And once the hot glue has set, those sprues are in place. I then, from a supermarket, you can get these dishcloths. I put these in a blender. I just dampen them first because they're quite firm, and the damp just takes them off and makes it easier for the blender. Make sure you ask permission from your other half or your mum if you're making these. But yeah, I just blend them up, and what happens is I end up with something like this. I've added a bit of PVA to these, and you can see it's just tiny bits of that cloth. And then once the sprue is firm, I then get Yoo-hoo glue, which is from the pound shop, so only cost me £1, and I start sticking lots of these bits on with Yoo-hoo glue and then leave it overnight to dry. I then put a bit more on just to build them up, leave it again overnight. I tend to put watered down PVA on just to make them nice and firm so they're not too spongy. And then once that's set, it's really simple just to spray them black and then dry brush the red, orange and yellow on, and I also put a little bit of grey on top just to make it look a bit more like smoke. They do take a few hours to do because you have to wait for the glue to dry, you have to blend, so it does take a while to get the blender and the glue to stick. So these usually take a couple of days with the rest period. Close up, they don't look particularly anything, but I always think with videos, the 3-foot rule, they look pretty awesome on the table, because if that's suddenly a load of explosions, that looks really good. And then for the ranging in markers, what I have been doing is I bought some tiny dice. So each of the spotters would be given, a dice, and each of the blast markers will be given a dice, and I've got different blast markers that I've been using depending on the size of the mortar, which is fine, it works, it's quite discreet. What I like about that is that it doesn't take up a lot of space on the table, and it's pretty easy to work with. So that's kind of where I am at the moment. So let's have a look at the resin from Warlord. So these literally come as, they're from the Cruel Seas set, so they're about 10 quid for 2 of these. And then this set here, I believe it was £10 for all of these. But again, all I do is, for ease, I just spray it black and then just dry brush some grey, red and yellow on it. And that's it, they're then done. Blast markers to your heart's content. And what we have been doing again is using these as medium mortars. So once they've ranged in, we know they're ranged in. And I just use tiny dice. And the idea is that actually we use some of the different sizes for, so these are going to be heavy machine guns. These are going to be flak, and we'll then have medium mortars. So next up are these. They were sent to me by David Robotham. He's got an Etsy store. I'll put the link to the Etsy store down in the description below. It's called Tabletop Battlemats. So basically these come in different sets. So this is a set at the back. I think these are ideal for beginners. So these are, instead of using pin markers, or you can just use them as small explosions. And these are slightly larger explosions if you want to use them that way. I've put some of Warlord's pin markers there so you can see the size comparison. These don't have dials on them, so each one would have to represent a pin. So if someone had 3 pins on them, you would do that if the team had 3 pins on them. Yeah, so they're pretty easy to put together. It's just pop them out of the sprue that they're on, a little bit of dab of PVA or wood glue, and it just sticks them together. So for beginners, I think these are really, really nice. They're £12.50, I think, for a set like this. I've got quite a lot of these bits, and I like the realism of these. I'm not quite so sure on the realism of those, but for the price and people getting started, I think they are ideal. What I do like, however, are these mortar ranging in markers. So as you can see, you get a small disc to put your spotter in. He has a pair of binoculars next to him, so you know he's a spotter. And then you've got the red markers that would then go against the target. So there's a 5, 4, 3 and 2. Obviously you don't need the 6 or the 1, because if you've got the 6, that's when you take your first shot, and the 1 would be because you've ranged in. So there's enough there to help with your ranging in. It comes in 3 different colours, so if you've got 3 different mortars, that is a great start. And then there's also the blast markers with each colour to assist with when you have ranged in, or you can still put it to show you've done the shot, and that's going to be 5+ on the next one. This set, incidentally, also comes with a 1-inch marker template, so you can check whether for light mortars, or for if you're shooting flak, then actually that 1-inch template, and also a 2-inch template. So if you're firing a medium mortar, you can check who's within the blast mark of it, which is also very nice. So there we go. There's 3 options. They vary in price. So the cheapest but the hardest is to make your own. These ones here, they will take a couple of days doing bits here and there to build them up, but they do look quite nice. Warlords, as I say, £10 for 2 is quite pricey, or £10 for these smaller ones, but you need these really. They're the only ones that would fit for medium mortar, but once they're painted up, they do look nice and they do look quite realistic. But again, you're talking about a fair bit of money. And then these ones here, £12.50 for the bits at the back, £12.50 for the one at the front. I am actually probably going to use these from now on, because I think actually that's a really, really simple and really effective way of using the ranging in markers for mortars. I've got like 20 different coloured dice, so I've got pink, purple, green, blue, yellow, you name the colour, I've got it for different mortars depending on what I need. But it's not really that obvious, and these are just nice little tokens that will help with that. So essentially, we've got, as I say, the best looking of homemade ones, because you can really, I could base these properly and really make them look really nice. And then the Warlord ones. But if you want something that's quick and easy, then these ones from Tabletop Battlemats will get you started up and running very, very quickly, because you just pop them out, dab a glue, and they're done. But there we go. So let me know what your thoughts are. Do you have any of these? Are you looking at getting any of these? Are there any alternatives on the market that you think might be suitable or might be better? I'm going to paint these up because we've got a D-Day Normandy beach landing coming up soon, and I want these for different types of machine shots, machine guns and flak and all sorts of different. So I want a variety of different sizes of shells, so that during the battle we can represent who's firing what at who, and that should look quite nice when they're all painted up. But as I say, I am going to use these ranging in markers. So there we go. Thank you very much to David for sending me through those from his Etsy store. Check it out. They are quite nice if you just want to get started with your pin markers and your blast markers, or if you want something a bit nicer and a bit more methodical for your ranging in markers for your mortars. They're absolutely ideal. At some point I might do a how to make these video. This is just a quick one just to show the differences between the different types of explosion pin markers and ranging in markers you can get. So hopefully you liked it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed already, it doesn't cost anything. Please subscribe. You can support the channel on Patreon, or you can also support us on YouTube. There is a way you can just give us a little bit of money that just helps for us buying and getting more scenery, terrain and figures, so we continue to put good battle reports on the table. So there we go. Thank you to you all for watching. Take care, and we'll see you all again soon.